Hello everyone, and welcome back to Axiom, where we share, discuss, and practice ways of living a happier and more fulfilled life. I'm Ryan, and last week we covered the most important function of your mind, the ability to perceive. And we also covered how you can be certain that your mind is at least in part working properly, through being sure that something is real. Today, we're going to continue exploring perception, what it is, what else the mind perceives, and why the mind even perceives anything in the first place. The purpose of covering these concepts is to help you focus your efforts in life so that you can make better decisions and ultimately flourish. We established previously that if minds are operating at all, they must know that something is real. They literally cannot operate without this concept. So as long as they believe anything, they must believe this. And that is the axiom which this program is named after. We also went over how our minds are things which make perceptions, or interpretations of impressions. For example, if you see a mirage in the desert and interpret that as water, you've made an incorrect perception or interpretation of an impression. On the other hand, if you're at the beach and you see the ocean, you're probably making a correct perception or interpretation of an impression. A natural next step in mapping out the mind is what else minds generally notice. If minds notice that something at all is real, they likely notice their own ability to notice things as well. Now the mind has noticed two things. It's noticed that something is real, and noticed it's capable of noticing things. Maybe this is a third thing, noticing itself. You see how within the first few moments of its existence, the mind has performed even these core perceptions. By simple inference from the first axiom, the mind can conclude several other things, like the fact that it perceives and therefore also exists. Now, before we move any further, we need to also answer another question about the mind, and that is, why does the mind perceive at all? In order to understand any system, asking why is obviously a great place to start. In fact, answering why something does anything usually provides a good description of what that thing itself is. For example, if I ask, why does a car do what it does? I will probably get an answer referring to the engine, transmission, wheels, seats, windshield, steering wheel, etc. And this will essentially provide a definition of what a car is. So let's do the same for the mind. Here's the definition Axiom will put forward for what a mind essentially is. A mind is an entity which makes perceptions and actions in order to maximize its total happiness. Now, we've already covered the first part of that, and I think we all agree that minds make perceptions. But when asked why minds make perceptions, it's my opinion that the only answer must be happiness. Some may prefer the word satisfaction, others may say joy or fulfillment, but I'm going to stick with the general broad term of happiness for now. It is the intended final state of any mind. Just like an atom is most stable when full of electrons, so too our minds are most stable in the state of being called happiness. It is where we want to be, and when we're there, we don't want to leave. In casual conversation, we affirm this all the time, and we're all familiar with it. We say, this weather makes me happy, or the music at the party was too loud and it made me unhappy, so I left. Often without realizing it because it's so commonplace, we acknowledge every day that our motivation for any action in life is actually happiness. And that's why here at Axiom, it's proposed that it's why we perceive anything at all. If happiness is the end goal state for our minds, the purpose of perception is to more clearly understand what around us, or even within us, is keeping us from reaching that final state of happiness. And the mind does not only perceive, but acts also. The mind at least seems capable of causing things to change, starting with itself. We might act by changing what we're thinking about, maybe to distract us from something we don't want to dwell on. But we may also change the physical state external to us, like raising a cup of cold water to our mouth on a hot day. In any possible example, the reason we do these things is to become happier, and we always make choices to increase our happiness, never to decrease. If our decisions ever do decrease our happiness, we usually call it a mistake. But usually, we simply want to increase our happiness more and more, and if possible, maximize it. While we may choose to endure short-term discomfort, like lifting weights or running a marathon, these are always done in exchange for a greater happiness on the other end, like the feeling of accomplishment or bettered health. Promises of high levels of happiness are usually at the core of any religion, philosophy, political movement, and so on. Christianity describes heaven, though arguably metaphorically, as lined with streets of gold and a place where everyone you miss will be reunited to. In Buddhism, nirvana is described as the highest form of bliss anyone can attain. Philosophies often claim that if you prioritize different things or view the world differently, you will become happier. Political movements argue that if we enact new rules, remove other ones, or have a certain platform, that people will generally be happier. And hey, look at what we say here, even in the intro to this channel. That Axiom is a place where we share, discuss, and practice ways of becoming happier. If you thought we'd posture as some better than the rest practice, we'll level with you. We're not. I also am claiming to have a proposal for living a happier life. And if it doesn't work for you, that just means there's something that can be revised about Axiom. Nothing wrong with you. I'm just drawing attention to the fact that every group is proposing some way of increasing your happiness, and that's generally what we choose. Now, certainly there is debate about this. Some say we don't always intentionally choose happiness. Sometimes we intentionally choose unhappiness, and maybe even unhappiness for others. For now, we'll say this might be true, and take today's description of the mind as a generalization. Now, if minds are capable of noticing happiness increasing, it stands to reason they can also notice it decreasing. Certainly, any mind that doesn't associate harmful things with unhappiness probably won't survive very long. Luckily, we generally avoid pain and those things which are harmful, and this comes through negative feelings like anger, sadness, hurt, confusion, and so on. But here's where we get into diverging types of minds, and you may already be able to see where this is headed. Not all minds seem to be the same. Although our core definition of mind is simply something that makes perceptions and actions in order to maximize happiness, this definition applies to a multitude of different entities. You would be pressed to find anyone who would argue that the mind of a whale is the same as the mind of a bird, or the mind of a human the same as an elephant's, or a dog's and a rat's. There seem to be a variety of different types of minds, and while all share that core definition of being perceiving things which seek happiness, they come in very different forms. From what we know, Some are capable of certain feelings or concepts, while others simply are not. While these other types of minds will get their time in this program, likely in our science and zoology chapters. Right now, we will focus on describing those minds which generally resemble the ones we call human, and refer to that category of functions. As such, the human mind makes associations between things and feelings. For instance, when still in the womb, a mind may associate its cold surroundings with discomfort. This association will probably only be broken first by the climate of wherever they're born into. As soon as this first expectation is broken, the very first time we notice something we thought is no longer true, a new feeling emerges. This is the feeling of uncertainty. Now, obviously, the feeling of uncertainty only arises when we are not certain about something. And uncertainty only arises when we are first unsure about how to categorize something. Whereas previously, the baby had associated its surroundings with cold, and maybe now the air they're born into is warm, if they had even noticed these things at all, they now realize they're capable of being incorrect. All beliefs now need to be filed into a new category, along a new spectrum. And that spectrum is of how much confidence should be put into any belief. This can be likened to someone walking across an icy lake. The person feels sure of where they're standing right now, but having maybe seen ice break before, they know they need to test their walking path ahead of time, maybe by prodding the ice with a walking stick first to make sure it's steady. Our ideas are literally the same way. In any of our plans, we test the certainty or stability of our assumptions to make sure they can be relied on. And those ideas which prove time and time again to be reliable, we make a little home base out of. Whether it's a political candidate you find consistently reliable, a restaurant that always tastes great, or a band that never puts out a bad album. These are the ideas and practices we build our worlds around. And the purpose for all of these associations remains the same. The function of the mind has not changed one bit. Just like the person crossing the icy lake, or the person enjoying their favorite restaurant for the 1000th time, we are either moving ourselves to a place where we will be happier, or moving other things to a place that will make us happier. Either way, the end goal is always the same: to maximize our happiness. All of our emotions either lead to or away from this goal. Feelings of fun, humor, excitement, relaxation, the positive feelings, these are the feelings which lead us toward happiness. All of the rest, frustration, fear, anger, hurt, confusion, and loneliness, the negative feelings, these are the ones we avoid. Their purpose is to push us away from something and back toward happiness. A good comparison would be like a light in the middle of a large, dark room. The light in the middle is happiness, and we all stand around the edge trying to find our way toward the light. But in the way are various obscure objects. Some block our way, some reflect the light, making us think they are the light for a second. Others we don't notice at all until we step on them like a Lego in the night. This is how we approach happiness. We may never even quite reach it, but we make progress by making our way closer and closer, little by little. So now we have officially begun to cover the first stages of the emotions that minds perceive. All of these serve their own purpose, from rage to relaxation, chaos to comfort. They point us either away from or toward happiness. Learning how much to give in to them is the true art in life. In order to achieve happiness, one wouldn't want to not feel anything. Then you might not even ever allow yourself to feel happy. Likewise, you probably don't want to just ignore all hurt. There must be some sort of middle that's a healthy allowance of emotional expression, as well as a healthy regulation of these emotions so as to not let them get out of hand in ways we regret later. Now, not all minds have the capacity for these emotions or the ability to regulate them, at least not as far as we know yet. But as far as our own minds go, this is basically the whole task of life. Figuring out how to control our own emotions without becoming numb to them. Next time, we will begin to explore outside sensations to the mind. Whereas so far everything we've covered has been internal, now we'll move on to how the external world can affect our minds. From temperature to playing a good game of disc golf. In your own life, consider the things which make you truly happy, whether these are internal or external. Usually, these things are more simple than we realize. We may think we want fabulous wealth, mansions, attention, and every possible sensual pleasure, but the truth is often that we just want greater access to the simple things in life, like going for a walk through beautiful countryside, playing a game with friends, listening to a story or watching a great movie, especially with those you love. It's not wealth that's stopping us from acquiring these things most of the time, but simply the opportunity to do them. So take a moment to think about the memories you truly cherish and the ones you're trying to create. Let these thoughts motivate you in life. Oftentimes, there are valuable memories that we entirely forget about and go through life like doom-scrolling drones, living to collect a paycheck and watch Netflix. But I think we all know this does not really motivate us, and that we're capable of more. Going forward, we will ask the question of how external sensations affect our happiness and what we can do to increase that. From sociology to history to politics and video games, we have more topics coming soon. If you would like to join one of the weekly discussions, please leave a comment, email, or text the information in the description. We're so glad you were able to join today and hope you find value in building your understanding of the world from the inside out, from the axioms to every facet of life. And remember, this community is meant to be a form of support for those participating, and we will need as much feedback as we can get for how to achieve that. So any feedback or support you can offer will be greatly appreciated and hopefully repaid back to you. See you in the next video.